bro, what the fuck is going on in this sport right now? Charles Oliveira pulls out of the fight against Islam in 12 days, and Volkanovski steps in on short notice for the rematch. Crazy risks, everything's against him, but some people would argue this is the kind of thing that fighters need to do to be considered great, to be considered to be the greatest of all time. I mean, if Volk goes in and beats Islam on 12 days notice and finishes him, I know some people are going to be having this conversation, so I decided to make a video about it. I'd just like to quickly address, I apologize for the audio in the last video. It was fucking abysmal. This one's much better. I'm using my actual mic again, but yeah. I am wearing this madness today. I'm comfy, bro. It's winter, deal with it. Well, it's not. It's fall. Autumn, but deal with it. And I still don't have good lighting in this room, so I'm again looking like I'm in some sort of vampire's fucking dungeon. I apologize for all of them things. But I saw a tweet saying if Volkanovski goes in and wins compared to John Jones's win over 8 middleweights or some shit like that. A lot of people still discredit John Jones for multiple things, not just his resume, which I think if you discredit in his resume, it's fucking crazy. But this is why I wanted to make this video. A lot of people are going to consider Volk the GOAT if he beats John Jones, especially in this era where people are so quick to be like, oh, that's the best fucking thing ever. That's the best knockout ever. That's the best fight ever. You know, every other fucking fight. Joe Rogan's terrible at this. And people do still cling to that Reyes decision, so I do understand. I'm not no John Jones fanboy. I do think he's the GOAT. I think he's the best fighter in the whole sport. But, you know, I understand why some people have other people over him. And, yeah, if you have Volk over him after this fight, you know, that's essentially what I'm about to talk about. So you have to remember, not only does he have the accolades, does he have the top defenses, blah blah blah, he's currently basically on a 27 fight win streak. He got the no contest against Daniel Cormier and the disqualification against Matt Hamill. Listen, I'm not counting them. He's on a 27 fight win streak. Habib left on a similar, I think he was like 28, 29 and 0, and people hold Habib as one of the greatest just for his record. So you have to put respect on John Jones's name. You're not just talking about belts. You're not just talking about 2-weight division champ. You're talking about fucking fights in the UFC. 27 or 28 and 0, I think he is. He would be. I mean, he's been in the UFC for such a long time. He fought Stephan Bonner when he was 7 and 0. And whether you believe him or not, his interviews when he was saying Stephan Bonner was this big scary guy, he was like a proper UFC fighter, he was famous. And John Jones was legitimately scared of this man. And he went in at 7 and 0, still fresh in the game. And yeah, he hasn't lost since. So let's throw up this super high effort graphic I made earlier. And let's start with something easy. Let's start with win streak. John Jones is currently at a 19 win streak officially because of the disqualification to Matt Hamill, but essentially he's on a 28 win streak. I put it in brackets. Even if you count the disqualification as a legitimate loss, it's still 19. Volk is technically currently on a win streak of 1 because obviously he lost to Islam, but his highest win streak was 21, which again is crazy, you know. Both guys, great fighters, obviously great win streaks, but you know, John Jones takes this one. Again, I'm not counting the fucking DQ as a loss. I'm just not doing it. Next, we're going to look at their best wins, so essentially their resume. John Jones obviously got Shogun Rua, Rampage Jackson, Machida, Evans, Belfort, Sonnen, Gustafsson twice, Glover Teixeira, DC twice, Cyril Gane. You've also got people like Reyes, Santos, Anthony Smith in there as well, but I didn't really feel like throwing them on. And then you look over at Volk, he's got Mendez, Aldo, Holloway 3 times, which is, it speaks volumes because Holloway is in a lot of people's top, you know, 10 pound for pound list. Brian Ortega, Korean Zombie, and then Yair Rodriguez. And obviously if he goes in and beats Islam, he adds Islam Makhachev onto this resume as well, which, you know, there's some argument to be made. Obviously being undefeated at light heavyweight versus being undefeated at featherweight is what we're going to look at next. And light heavyweight, John Jones has beat 3 generations of fighters, a lot of people say it, but he also was beating a lot of fighters when the light heavyweight division was the marquee division of the UFC. You know, that was where everyone was saying the best fighters were. That was where all the eyes were. It was essentially like the lightweight or the bantamweight division now. Featherweight has always been solid, but there's only been a few champions. It hasn't been around as long as something like light heavyweight. You know, it's a relatively new division in the grand scheme of things, so I think being undefeated at light heavyweight for Jones weighs more than being undefeated at featherweight for Alex. But yeah. But what I will say is John Jones moving up from light heavyweight to get the heavyweight belt would not be as impressive as Alexander Volkanovski moving up from featherweight to get the lightweight belt. And this list is kind of assuming that he does beat Islam and how close that conversation is after he beats Islam. So Islam really should be in his best wins, but I still think John Jones takes the best wins thing, so it doesn't really matter too much. The lightweight belt, especially beating Islam for it, is, I mean, that's one of the best accomplishments anybody could do in this whole sport. Going up against Islam, the boogeyman of the division, on 12 days notice and winning, that would be insane. So I give Volk that one. The lightweight and featherweight double champ is much harder to obtain than the light heavyweight and heavyweight, especially today. Next one, it's a small thing, but we need to put it in there. It needs to be said. Alexander Volkanovski has never had a robbery decision, and a lot of people also think that Holloway won the fight against Volk. Again, I don't think so. So a lot of people will argue with this one and say Volk didn't win clearly, but I think he did. So this is my list. I apologize. If you want to take that one off Volkanovski and don't credit either of them for it, then that's fine. The list ultimately remains the same. Next, we got John Jones with 13 title defenses, Alexander Volkanovski with 5. Don't really need to speak on this one too much. John Jones has obviously been around much longer, but he's only 1 year older than Alex. So it just speaks volumes to how long John Jones has been at the top, how long he's been doing this. And yeah, that's more credit to him. Now, the big one that probably should have been near the top, PED accusations. Now, obviously, we don't know if Volk's on juice or not. The CKB camp with Izzy growing a tit kind of seems like they're tapped into that stuff, but obviously Volk isn't straight from CKB. He just trains there sometimes. But he doesn't have any PED accusations against him from my knowledge, so Volk takes that one. And then just to score 3 aspects of the game, striking, grappling, and fight IQ. I would give striking to Volk, I would give grappling to John Jones, and I would give fight IQ to both of them. It's hard to argue. Volkanovski with his traps, with his switching leg kick, switch stance, baits people into things. I'm not Jack Slack, I can't break it all down for you on the fucking spot, but you know what I'm saying. He's a very technical guy. Both guys, their fight IQ is probably what's took them this far, so yeah, I have to give both of them that. I think that John Jones still holds the crown right now for the GOAT. I think the easiest way, not the easiest way, but the quickest and most assured way for Volk to trump Jones as the best fighter the sport has ever seen, I would say, is if he beats Islam. They have the trilogy. He defends against Islam and beats Islam again, and then maybe defends against Charles, Poirier, and Gaethje in any order, or maybe Beneil instead of Poirier, or however you want to do it. I think beating Islam twice, cementing that he is better than Islam, and then maybe 2 or 3 title defenses at lightweight, I wouldn't argue against it. I do think John Jones would still be there. I think he's always going to be there. Even if he lost to Stipe, I think he'd still be there. People always love to say that DC is one of the best of all time, but John Jones isn't the best of all time because of his one questionable decision against Reyes. DC has lost multiple fights and people still try and put DC in the top 5. Some of them even try and put them over Jones. That's how delusional some people are. But you know, he came into the UFC as a kid, basically. There's no one with the accolades or accomplishment of Jones right now. Maybe somebody will overtake it. Maybe Volk's the person to do it. But Volk is 35. If he did beat Islam twice and then defend it 3 more times, that would probably put us at the end of 2025 if he fights twice a year. He can retire at 37 years old, 2 belts to his name, and potentially arguably the best fighter of all time. So the path is definitely there for him to do it. I want him to do it, but we'll see if he actually gets it done. And they're very similar in how they think about the game. You know, Jones with watching footage and he says he has nightmares about his opponents, but they're very similar, right? Not similar in personalities, but similar when it comes to the game. They're both martial artists, they're both students of the game. That is what 100% commitment and obsession looks like. John Jones, when he was sniffing fucking cocaine and doing whatever he was doing, that's obviously not committed, but when he's on, he's on. And when he's switched on, he's one of the best fighters in the world, and it's same as Volk. It takes a very good fighter to beat Volk. I think Volk, in the Islam fight, he gave him too much respect. If he comes in and doesn't give him the same respect, it is a bit worrying because of how short notice it is. He might not be in fight shape, but listen, if anyone can do it, it's Volk, man. All the best of luck to Volk. Yeah, I just wanted to make this video. Forgive me for wearing this fucking thing. It's cold in my house, bro.